There is a specific silence that fills a room when every earthly support system you rely on suddenly vanishes. It carries a crushing weight. We usually view this isolation as a total failure. Friends pull away, resources dry up, and the culture signals that if you are standing alone, you have done something terribly wrong. When prayers go unanswered in that quiet space, it feels natural to assume you have been neglected or forgotten. But consider an alternative. What if hitting rock bottom is actually the mandatory, sacred prerequisite for transformation? This zero point serves as a foundation. Hitting absolute zero is the intentional entry point into a historical and spiritual protocol known as the wilderness. Modern life operates at a deafening volume, insulated by shallow support systems and the constant hit of human applause. Isolation acts as a removal tool. It intentionally strips away these earthly attachments, forcing you to drop the crutches you didn't even know you were using. History shows this pattern repeated across centuries. Abraham had to leave his familiar world and every safety net he possessed before his journey could truly begin. Joseph followed a similar path, losing his status and being betrayed by his family before spending years alone in an Egyptian prison. This removal of comfort creates a psychological clearing. It is the only way to shift your reliance from the world towards something more permanent. There is deep agony in calling out for help and meeting absolute silence. At your lowest, that stillness feels like a withdrawal. We demand immediate answers. However, preparation follows a different logic. It doesn't yield to human standards of timing or convenience. Moses spent 40 years as an exile in the desert. That period of silence was required for him to unlearn his past and forge the humility needed for the work ahead. David spent years hiding in caves, living as a fugitive. Those wilderness years were the crucible that shaped his character before he ever sat on a throne. Even Jesus faced a moment of absolute isolation in the Garden of Gethsemane, praying in the dark while his friends slept. This silence indicates that a plan is unfolding far beneath the surface. It is the sound of active, unseen preparation. The wilderness reaches a climax at the precise point where you are fully depleted and admit you cannot take one more step on your own. The Apostle Paul described an agonizing thorn in the flesh that he begged to have removed. His prayers for relief were denied, but he was given an answer that changed his perspective. This diagram shows the relationship between our effort and divine support. As human capacity drains to zero, it creates a vacancy. Power is made perfect through the specific presence of human weakness. This is grace, not as a fragile sentiment, but as a structural force that carries you when your own endurance is gone. Unshakable strength cannot be produced by sheer willpower. It is exclusively unlocked at the absolute limit of your own capability, in the moment of total surrender. The wilderness produces a person who is structurally rebuilt. You emerge from the fire with a different internal composition. You gain a lasting immunity to the need for human approval. You no longer depend on the shallow safety nets once essential for your survival. When you walk into chaotic rooms, you carry an authority that wasn't learned from a book. It was lived deep in your bones. Stop despising this season of isolation. Stop trying to rush the process. Lean into the silence and let it work on you. When the storm finally breaks and people ask how you survived, you will realize that having no one but God was the exact condition needed to prove He was enough.